So I'll tell you a situation that I dealt with, and I sent some audio for it. It was a guy named Michael Chevalier. This was a big case in Vegas. So here's what happened. So the call comes out. I'm a sergeant at the time, right? Mm-hmm. Swing shift. So it's still light outside. The call comes out that a lady is talking on the phone to her friend, and the friend hears the struggle, and then all of a sudden the line goes dead. She calls 911, and obviously we get dispatched. And sergeants, when we hear certain calls, we're like, that's something I should roll to. We don't have to, but that's a call I should roll to. I happen to be close enough to where the two officers, so it's one of those apartment communities where it's 1 floor, 2 floors, and then there's top floor, and then there's an apartment all the way down here. So the officers, I pull in the parking lot and I see my officers walking to the door. Then all of a sudden I see the door open and the officers pull out their gun and fall back, like to try to get away from whatever was going on at the door. And I hear them on the radio, 413, subject has a 413. So the subject came to the door with his arm around the female and the firearm to the female. I have my car in the parking lot, and then obviously code red, that means only emergency traffic, all the officers come. We get into the front of my car, and I have a dry erase, and I'm on the hood of my car pointing out where I want my officers to go and how we're going to deal with the situation. One of my officers at the time, is a really sharp guy, he says, "Hey, Sarge, I got my rifle. In case he comes out, let me go over to this pizzeria right here, and I can engage him if he comes out with the gun." Great lesson. If one of your subordinates has a great idea, be very quick to listen and learn from them, because it was a great idea. Because the second that he gets over there, Chevalier comes out and starts shooting at us. Wow. We all go down. My guy engages Chevalier at the door, and he hits the door frame, and all this wood and everything hits Chevalier, and Chevalier goes back inside the house. I'm like, I got to call in. There was no time. No negotiators had not been around, nothing. So I said, if I call him, he's not going to be shooting. He's not going to be hurting anyone. So I get in and I start having a conversation with Chevalier, and we develop a rapport. Interestingly, I was able to record a segment of this conversation. We'll play the conversation, and then I will tell you the nuances of the conversation that occurred, the aftermath of it, and how deep negotiations can be.
Okay, cool. Yeah, tee that up there, Trev.
I like to keep my word. And I know you do, and I remember that you said that if you get back on the phone with me, that you and I can work this out. Can we, if he comes up?
Work this out, we can come to some type of agreement.
All right, and I'm a man of my word.
I think the agreement that we'll come to will be release of the hostage, and perfectly, she will be unharmed. But
I like what you're talking. I like what you're talking about, and that peaceful agreement is the route that we got to go, man.
Oh, SWAT team is here. Christopher, I want you to tell the SWAT team to move away from the front of the door.
Can I just
tell them to move them now? Would you tell them to move them now?
Michael, can I tell you what's happening?
Would you tell them to move away from the door?
Okay, Michael, can I tell you something?
Tell them that.
All right, listen.
I see them.
Give me a second.
I see the ladder, and I see them.
Yes, Michael, that's absolutely fine. Listen to me. Let me just tell you what's going on. Remember before I explained to you what was going on? Remember before,
tell you what.
Michael, remember before I explained to you what was going on?
I tell you what. We're going to call 911 and attack this door.
Okay, so let me give you some background on this. Okay. I still get like really amped when just listening to that again, because it takes me right back there. So Michael and I had been speaking for a while, and the situation seemed like it was pretty much calm. Negotiators were arriving, SWAT team had arrived, and they were setting up in their position. At that point, Michael freaked out when he saw the SWAT team, because you see the SWAT team in their greens and their rifles, and you know that at some point, if you have a hostage, that something's likely going to happen and it's not going to be good for you. Ultimately, the decision was made to go to condition 2. Condition 2 is when my job is to talk Michael in front of a window so they can shoot and kill him. So there is this interesting element to talking to a person that you are talking into their own demise.
Wow.
Talking to a dead person, essentially. That ended up not happening. What happened was, through electronic means, we were able to find out that Michael was doing things to the female. The decision was made to do an explosive breach into the apartment and then take Michael out, because Michael had been raping her. And I'm condensing this because this is a very long, drawn-out process.
Got it. And he kidnapped the woman?
Yeah, he did. She had her door open. She was out talking to her friend, and he grabbed her and pulled her inside.
Got it.
Pulled her inside.
Yeah.
Lady's just out there talking.
Unreal.
So ultimately, after SWAT goes in and kills him, she's laying right there. You talk about PTSD or what a person has to go through. It's absolutely horrific. But let me talk about the nuance of language. If you watched what Michael was saying, mind you, the team is listening and watching every single word that a person says. There's one very, very interesting part of his conversation where he says, the hostage. Now, again, we would always want to change that to back to saying the person's name, but I didn't get a chance to do that. And I did at other points in it. But what he says is, she will be relieved in perfectly, and he stops at perfectly, and she will be released unharmed. So why did he stop at perfectly? He stopped at perfectly because he knew that he was doing things that she was not perfect. Our minds and our language are so intimately connected. And when you get to understand, see where he says release of the hostage? Mm-hmm. He says,
play that again, that part, just back it up a second or two.
Release of the hostage, and perfectly, she will be unharmed. But
you see, he stopped and he flipped it because he knew that she wasn't perfect. He knew he was doing horrific things to her. And we listen to these types of things because we have to make a decision. How long do we wait before we go inside?
Does it wear down your compassion, or does it build it over time, do you think?
Oh, that's such a good question. For me, in the immediate, you kind of build up this this thick skin where you don't, like, for me, showing emotion is still a challenge for me in life. I get emotional, and you sometimes will see that there'll be tears that can well up in my eye, but I don't want to let them fall down.
Oh yeah.
So it's tough. But to answer your question, I think that while you're doing it, thick skin, as you get older, you become more like that. You know, I really feel what you're going through. I wish that I could, and I don't like to say I wish. There's a way that I could help you. My goal is to figure out how I can do that. One of my lieutenants, I think you guys have the audio on this. One of my lieutenants, 405, and there's audio of it. This is horrific story.
Las Vegas cop shot wife and 5-year-old son before unaliving himself. Okay.
Yes, so this guy was my lieutenant, and you can play the audio if you want, and he tells everything right here, and I'll give you a little bit of background afterwards.
Okay.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hi.
And what's the problem? Tell me exactly what happened.
My name is Hans Walters.
Mm-hmm.
I work for Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I just shot and killed my son, Max, and my wife, Michelle. And I killed her because she's in such chronic pain from her neck and back and on more medicines, and she's not going to survive. And we were both seeing a therapist and a psychologist in Boulder City. His name is and I feel terrible for doing it.
Okay, and
okay, wait, voice out. Please don't interrupt me, please.
Okay.
I've also set the house on fire, and if
090.
the fire department comes to my house, because there's a fire hydrant right in front of my house, I'm going to open fire on them. So I have to wait till the house is burning, and then I'm going to shoot myself. Okay? So
okay,
I don't
sir.
I don't ask me any questions. This is real. This isn't a joke. The fire alarms in the background is because I set the garage and the bedroom on fire. My wife's in the bedroom. I shot her in the head. My son, unfortunately, is in the living room watching Oswald, and I shot him in the head, too. And, forgive me for my sins. Please don't call back. Thank you.
Oh, my God.
So Hans was my lieutenant. And
really?
For a period of time, yeah. He was my lieutenant for a period of time. And he was one of the most soft-spoken, polite. Every time he would talk to you, he would say, please and thank you. Total family man. Wasn't a go out after work drinker type guy. Everything in the time that I knew him was about his wife and his son Max. I remember there was a time, that's him right there, and that's his wife. She was a cop at one time. And I remember there was a time when he was my lieutenant, he would go take time off to go take care of her, and he would put me as to take care of the lieutenant paperwork. And he was always just very please and thank you. And he was just I mean, it's so weird for me to be able to say that one of the most kind, soft-spoken people to me and to the other people that he interacted with, which was so wild. So his wife had some significant medical challenges. And when I was younger, as I said before, I didn't understand how suffering from pain can be so debilitating for a person. Now, this is what's really interesting. In this situation, Hans walked outside after he shot his wife and his son. And he didn't get shot. The police didn't shoot him. And I believe that he wanted it to be a suicide by cop. And that's the only reason I can, muster as to why he would walk outside. But they didn't shoot him, and he went inside, and then he 405'd. What's interesting is I told you as I listened to the conversation, I listened to the language. What he says, please forgive me. What would a person normally say? Would you just say, please forgive me, or would you say, God forgive me? But in my mind, I feel like potentially, Theo, you're a negotiator now. Why did he not use the word God?
Because he'd done some things that were bad that what God wouldn't forgive him
There
for.
you go, brother. See, you get this stuff, man. You really get this stuff. And that's why that word did not come out of his mouth. What a horrific situation. But let me tell you something, man. There are some people under those circumstances who don't want anyone else to raise their kid. Can I speak to why he did that? I don't know. But I can tell you that I do have experience with a person who did something like that. And I sent you, there's no audio of this, but I did send a file of this case, Timothy Blackburn. I was a negotiator on the team at this time, and my team got the call out for Blackburn. I did not negotiate on an FBI agent who was connected with Blackburn, negotiated. Quick story of what Blackburn did. Blackburn committed a robbery of a vault in Vegas. $1 million+. Wow. $1 million+ he got away with, but he got caught. So Blackburn, that's Blackburn right there.
Ooh, he's Asian.
Yeah, Blackburn got caught. Yeah, Blackburn got. What did you think he was?
Blackburn.
Yeah,
probably white or black.
Yeah. Well, he got caught. He's in the North Las Vegas, one of the North Las Vegas detention, whatever, because it was a federal crime, and his wife breaks him out of the jail. He escapes. She put a screwdriver in her hair. They unlit it. He escapes.
Dude, I love them.
There's a manhunt for them. Okay. It was like one of the biggest manhunts in Vegas, and they kept telling us that we're going to catch him at some point. We're going to catch him. There's a reward. They find him barricaded in one of those daily suite hotels. Okay, The story's trippy. He doesn't want to talk to anyone on my negotiation team. He wants to talk to the FBI agent who arrested him. This FBI agent had said, when Blackburn said, "Am I looking at much time?" He said, "Your probation officer hasn't been born yet." And so Blackburn is in there, and they're talking. The FBI agent can hear the kids in the background, and Blackburn, it was with his family. He was a family guy. So SWAT is set up on the house, and they're figuring out whether or when to breach. Time is on our side, but here's what happens: a cop I know is on the outer perimeter, patrol officer. He's got his shotgun. He's moved from one position to the other, slinging his shotgun. His shotgun goes off. Blackburn thinks that SWAT is making an entry. It was just the guy had a negligent discharge. Blackburn then summarily shoots his wife, kid, and himself. SWAT goes in just as he's doing that and shoot Blackburn as he's falling to the ground. And even in the testimony, was that the SWAT officer says, I shot a dead man because he killed him. Because Blackburn was saying stuff like, I don't want to visit my kid through a plexiglass. And he was of the mindset that no one else is going to raise my kid or be with my woman. And knowing that there are people like that. And that is I have to walk very carefully when I say these things because this is very sensitive information. And I'm only speaking from my perspective and the information that I have in hopes that it could help someone else in the future, that if you find yourself in a situation, God forbid, where there's a degree of you feel like you can't go on without a person, you can. And everyone has a sanctity of life and should be able to go on.
What's that moment when you're negotiating, right? And you were or do you have a weapon on the person, or you don't have a weapon on them? You're kind of
No, so negotiation happens in a lot of different ways. That's atypical way, because it's from a negotiation team. They set up a command center, the whole 9 yards. You're very far back. I mean, sometimes you don't get on the phone for maybe an hour. You could be 2 hours later. That situation was a very critical situation where they needed someone who had training on the scene. So what's kind of fun that I've been able to deal with those kinds, and also the kind where you're in the tactical operations center. So, another one of those kind of dynamic situations was a guy who was inside, had a gun. His neighbor called, and I was negotiating. And it's called F face-to-face, but we weren't really face-to-face, because we don't do face-to-face. It's incredibly dangerous. But I was actually in patrol at the time, and I was the first to arrive, and I ended up getting a rapport with this guy, and I talked to him, and I developed, I want to say liking the guy, and understanding what he was going through. He's going through, and it's usually like three things. It's usually a health issue, loneliness, a family loss, and a financial issue or a medical issue. It's any one of various things. And he was going through like maybe all of those things. And I remember talking to him, and I'm like, and he says, you know what? We got to a point where he said, I'm going to come out, but I want to come out, and I want to talk to you. Will you walk me to the ambulance? Because I told him he was going to go to the ambulance and get transported. And I did that. And I stayed with him at the ambulance. The ambulance people come out to me and they say, hey, officer, you might want to come see this. I go inside, and inside of his drawer, stacks of kitty porn. Stacks of it.
Dang.
Now, mind you, I would talk this guy out of 405ing.
Right. You talking him from out of unaliving himself, and then now you're like, look what I've done.
It's really,
is that the thing? It's like, I kept this person alive.
It's like you have this really kind of dual, like this.
I'm sure.
It's really like,
right. You're like, if I had my choice, if I was able to walk up on somebody and it was the Wild West, I would probably.
Right. It's a very difficult situation to be in. And when you talk to a person for extended periods of time, it's called Stockholm. And have you ever heard of Stockholm syndrome?
Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. Let's bring it up. Let me read the definition of it, because I always hear it and I even say it. And I thought originally it was people from Norway that got lost or whatever, I think. But let me think.
It was a banker.
Stockholm syndrome is, what'd you say?
It's a bank robbery thing.
Oh, it's a bank robbery thing. Stockholm syndrome is a psychological response where a hostage or victim develops positive feelings or emotional attachment to their captor or abuser, often as a coping mechanism during prolonged captivity or abusive situations. So it's kind of like marriage or whatever, but it's like very severe.